No one wins alone, but you think you're supposed to because that's what everyone else does, right? We're about ready to unlock some major secrets to success, and I cannot wait for you to join me and the CWC coaches as we talk about the value of coaching today. I'm Tammy Alvarez, the founder of Career Winner Circle, where we empower business leaders to make a big impact and love every Monday morning again. And today, this rockstar team is going to be talking about the value of coaching. And so I'm really excited to bring everybody together. So Stephen, Christina, Tiffany, Kelly, thanks for joining our Reindeer Games again today. And we're in the business of coaching. But what we're going to talk about is some of our observations and some of the things that we want you to think about as you realize that you cannot win alone. Well, at least not as fast or nearly as fun. So I've been talking to a lot of my clients lately about their experience coaching with me and other coaches, and some really interesting findings have come out of it. So I'll share those anecdotes with you guys as we continue to talk as well. But we've all had personal coaches and professional coaches, I think, right? In terms of different parts of our lives. And the question I want to throw out to the team is, when do you know that it's the right time to have a coach? Who wants to kick us off? All right, Tiffany, kick us off.
I believe when you have done all you can do, you have explored AI, and the answer you get back tells you, I'm not human. This is as far as I can go. When that,
When
when you
ChatGPT can't fix it anymore, right?
exactly. When you have gotten to a place where you've scripted out everything that can be scripted out in terms of where you want your business to go, or the period at the end of the sentence is about as far as you can take it. Then that's time to sort of open up your world to someone external. And I love the quote, no man is an island entire of himself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. So when you start feeling like you're an island and you're out there alone, now it's time to introduce a coach. And of course, some of the articles you've written help us to explore the types of coaches we might need, depending on what type of island we're on at the time.
Yeah, right. Is it Iceland, Greenland, or is it somewhere in the tropics, right? So where are we hanging out? All right. Who else has some opinion on when it's the right time to bring a coach in?
I love Tiffany's answer, and it's really hard to expand on that. For me, I'll go ahead and tell everybody, since it was like brought up and everybody's like, "Ooh, this is fun." I just hired myself a new coach who is an emotional coach. So I'm trying to get in touch with my, that stuff. And
Obviously, the coaching hasn't started officially yet, right? So
no, it starts in 2 weeks on Friday at noon. Anyway, but it started because my wife looked at me and she goes, "How do you feel right now? Like emotionally?" And I was like, "Oh." And she was like, "No, seriously, how do you feel?" I'm like, "I don't know." And she was like, "How do you not know?" I'm like, "Well, I'm starting to get ticked off. Like, this question's ticking me off. Like, that's how I feel." And she's like, "That's not good." And I realized that for me, a lot of times it's whenever I'm sitting here in front of my computer, or I'm reading, or I'm whatever, and whatever it is I'm thinking about, and my answer is I don't know. That's when it's time to like go, "Hey, maybe I need to get someone to help me work through this, because this is beyond, at least right now, my limit of understanding." And the beauty of having a coach is they unlock the things that you already know, you just don't know you know.
Mhm.
And so how am I feeling? I obviously know how I'm feeling right now, but I don't know how to explain it, how to put it into words. And so, I went out and I found an emotional coach that is going to help me be able to get in touch with those things. And for me, that's when it's the right time.
That's awesome, and I cannot wait to watch this journey unfold. And it's not only good for you and your personal relationships, but your clients are going to benefit from this too, right?
100.
So it's a win for everyone. All right, who's
I,
Christina? Go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, I want to get in on this because I think that there's a space I think what Stephen and Tiffany are talking about, you can get to the place where I've exhausted everything I know how to do. Absolutely, that's a place where inviting somebody in to partner with you and travel with you and give you some new ideas and perspectives and challenge the things that you think you know. I think that's wonderful. Also, Stephen's talking about before he's at a place where his back's against the wall and he has, blown his marriage up, where his wife actually still cares how he feels. There's a place even before you get to that exhaustion, before you're absolutely desperate. I think it's time for a coach when you just find yourself asking, just help. Like you sit with yourself and you're just like, I don't know what to do next. It's too big. I don't know how to do it strategically. I don't know the skill set, whatever it is. I think if you just want to do it and you don't know how, you're not sure. Maybe you've tried, maybe you haven't. I think that's a time to get a coach too.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kelly, oh, go ahead, Tiffany.
Oh, no, I don't want to cut you off if you're going to dive into that a little bit more. I had one thing to add.
Sure.
The other piece to what Christina is saying, I think, is the accountability. So when you are at that place, as Christina mentioned, and you also sort of need that accountability partner, someone you're at a place you kind of have a path forward, but now you need someone to keep your feet to the fire and keep that thing moving on. I think that's also a time to get a coach. Sorry, Tammy, back to you.
No, never apologize. Great perspective. And how about you, Kelly? When do you think it's a really good time to hire a coach?
So a little bit to that, like, I don't know, what I'm doing, but also when you're just stuck in a cycle of just repetitiveness, you're doing the same thing, you're expecting the different results, those aren't happening. So you're just stuck in spin mode and you're like, well, what's wrong with this? Like, why is this not working? I'm putting forth all this effort, but is the effort that you're putting forward bringing you the value that you need?
Yep. Okay.
Trying to just be self-aware enough to say, I am stuck on the hamster wheel. I need to make it move. I need to make a change. And then, finding someone that can help talk you off that wheel, right?
Exactly. Or slow it down enough where you can step off without hurting yourself, right? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think that's, we have so many of our clients feel like they're just in that Groundhog Day. Right. And I know for me personally, especially since I've started this business, which has changed my perspective, moving into something in terms of entrepreneurship that I didn't know how to do, still am experimenting. Where I find the value of my coaches is they help me play bigger. Like, I know what we're doing. We've got a solid strategy. And, every now and then I just get really comfortable. I'm like, this is good. It's like, we're good. We have happy clients. We're doing our thing. It's all good. And that coach just like gives you that extra, like, you're playing small. The market needs more of what you're doing. So when you decide to hide, you're actually hurting your clients and the future of, the mission that CWC is trying to achieve. And I'm like, oh, shit. now I gotta go back and hit it up again, right? And so I think those coaching moments is when you want to stretch. Like, yes, you've got things to fix. You've got new things that you don't know. But when you really feel like this is your opportunity, and in my case, an obligation to our clients and to the market and to our team to just continually expand and grow. And that's where coaches really, I have found being personally beneficial. And a lot of clients that I work with are doing the same thing, which is exciting. Now, okay, so let's say we decide we need a coach. We know that now. We're either on the hamster wheel, we hit the period line, we've hit something that we know we need to do. Now, how do you choose the right coach? Because there's a million different coaching styles out there, right? Whether it's life coach, career coach, strategy coach, executive coach, life, you name it, right? There's a million different coaching types. There's a million different coaching styles as unique as the individuals that are doing the coaching. And then there's a million different coaching formats. Like, do you do a mastermind? Do you do private? Do you go, do you do group? Do you, so how do you unwind all of the options out there and decide what's right for you?
I would say the first thing you have to do is know what style of coach you respond to. Some of that's just knowing yourself, and some of that unfortunately in my opinion, has to be trial and error. I've had coaches I've worked with for a little bit, and like, hey man, sorry, nothing against you. It's just you're not my person.
Yeah, we're not
You know,
vibing, right? So,
yeah, the
yeah.
coach I just hired this morning, we were talking. I'm like, hey man, like I can be a bully. I
No.
need I was like, and he was like, okay, I kind of see that in your personality. I was like, you can't let me bully you. He's like, homie, like, no worries.
Got you.
Yeah. And it's that personality type that I need to keep my personality in check. So I can't bully him into taking a coaching session wherever I want it to go, or take the growth wherever I think it needs to go, because this isn't obviously my area of expertise, or I wouldn't be seeking out a coach. So that, for me, that's the number one thing is, is the personality going to hold me accountable, keep my feet to the fire, and keep pushing me out of my comfort zone on a consistent level that I can maintain. So, and I tell everybody, like, I'm not everybody's coach, because I'm pretty intense. I'm pretty, it's like, you're awake. Why aren't you working? That's my personality type. That's not for everybody, and that's okay. I totally understand that. But there are people that do resonate with that type of mindset, like mine. Then there are people that are like, it's okay to take work 9 to 5. And there are coaches for those personalities as well. It's finding that right balance and still going to push you and keep you accountable.
Okay.
I'm
Excellent.
off my soapbox.
Who else has something to add in terms of how do you find the right coach?
I think vetting coaches is an important part of the process, because you want to feel confident that your choice is the right choice. And how do you create that? By, talking to some other people and going, yeah, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that. I think it's this thing here. Too hot, too cold, just right.
That's right. Yeah.
But I think what's really fundamental to the coaching relationship at the end of the day, for me, it's trust. Trust that the coach you've chosen is really invested in you and your growth, because that's when they'll call you on your BS. That's when they'll love you through when you're having a hard time. That's when they're going to give you their best effort. They're going to bring the resources to the coaching experience that they think you need. And if what they offer is no longer what you need, I think they're going to tell you that, right? And you trust that you can be vulnerable. You trust that you can celebrate your strengths and your wins, and that you won't be judged. All of that I think is really important in the coaching relationship. So it kind of, which kind of coach do you choose? Well, there's certain just commonalities to coaching, regardless of what perspective you come from, what lens you like to look through, that a coach can offer, whether a career coach, leadership coach, life coach, relationship coach, what have you. But you just have some idea about what your issues are and have some conversation on the front end, and the coach will say, yeah, I can help you with that. Or not.
Hopefully. Right. So yeah.
Well, there's that trust thing.
That's it. Exactly.
Your gut will tell you.
Yep. Exactly.
I concur with my dear colleagues here on this call. When I was hiring a coach, I did one thing first, and that was I went to a trusted advisor who had a strong network and who I respected, and said, here's the challenge. Who do you recommend? And they gave me 2 recommendations based on what they knew about my character my competency, and my style of communication. And Tammy was one of them. And there was another one. And for me, I'm a very process oriented person. I like things to look very clean. And if I don't have confidence, if you lose the locker room with me, pretty much we're done. I might love you from a distance, but you know. And so I was very curious, since I know that about myself. I watched the processes. What kind of operation does this business have? Because the coach is representative of a business and a brand. And if you're looking for a business coach, for me, it's important that you identify your rock star. Who is it that has, the strong presence, strong processes, in addition to bench strength, knowledge, skill, capability that can help you? See, if you both look the same, they're not going to help you pick out a great outfit if they have a terrible one. So it's important. It was important for me when I was shopping. One was the point of connection, like, do they get me? Can they help me? Do they care? The other one was I needed something that spoke to my style of operating. Can I schedule quickly? Can they help me? Do they have systems and tools and processes that I can easily deploy? That brings me to the second thing, that is projected outcomes. So in hiring a coach, it's great to have someone to talk to. We have best friends for that. Your coach should also help you achieve outcomes and hold you to that. So what's in the toolkit? I want to see it. Give me a sample. Help me see what outcomes am I going to achieve. If I hire you, I want more than just a talk session. And just a quick story to round this out. I was on the phone the other day with someone who says they're hiring us, CWC, but they said, my last coaching experience was great, but I kept getting these emails to do this work and nothing helped with my business. See, when you go to hire a coach, it should be more than just scheduling sessions. You need to tie the sessions to outcomes that you can look back over your 6 month, 12 months and say, this is what we did. This is how I grew. This is what changed. And this is how I'm better.
Boom.
That's such a good point.
Yes.
I had a client the other day telling me about an experience he had gone through. And as he was explaining it to me, he's like, and as I'm thinking about this, I'm like, Stephen would say this, and Stephen's not going to like this. And like, he knew as he was living out the scenario, what I'm going to tell him. So as he's explaining it to me, I'm just like, yeah, everything you just said, you just coached yourself. Good job, buddy. Like, like that, I was so proud of that, because that's like, man, what I'm saying is starting, what we're working on is sticking, and you can really start to see the growth.
Yep, that's a great feeling. It's like, oh, I got Tammy on my shoulder again. I'm like, good. What'd she say?
Yeah, exactly.
And did she say something nice, or did you get the tough love that you needed? Right. So, yep. Kelly, how about you? What do you think?
So I'm going to address it from the standpoint if you aren't sure what type of coaching you're looking for, right? So Stephen, your example like really, really hit home. Sometimes those closest relationships, our spouse or a best friend, like we keep revisiting the same conversation. How do you feel about this, right? Like that was yours. And or if it's from a business standpoint, like you keep experiencing the same thing. Again, it's about being stuck in that spin cycle, right? Then trying to determine like, okay, is it an emotional need that you're not meeting? Is it something that is, logistical, business wise, leadership or whatever? Like, then you're really kind of diving into those different areas to really ask yourself the questions like, what am I lacking here? So that you can then start to decide, okay, my emotional thing is maybe okay. My leadership is not, like, this is where I'm lacking, right? So then you could really start to kind of dial in which area you want to focus on.
Well, and you bring up a great point, Kelly, because life is so interconnected. Right? We don't just have little boxes of everything. So, okay, my relationship's on the fritz, my job sucks, my finances are a mess, and physically I'm a disaster. All right, where do you start? Right? Do you hire a personal trainer, a money coach, a relationship coach, or do you get your career in order? And there's no right or wrong answer, but I think, kind of adding on to Kelly's point, trying to diagnose that root cause. Right. And the concept of a rising tide lifts all boats. And so what's that one thing that you can fix or get back on track or redirect, that's going to make everything else raise as well, right? And then there's different answers for everyone. But it is a little challenging to try and figure that out. The other thing I would encourage people to think about is there's a lot of different price points out there. There's a lot of different delivery styles that are out there. And so as you're trying to figure out, okay, what type of coach do I need? And who am I going to vibe with? A couple other things to think about. I always have found, either as a client or as a service provider, that if you are working with a coach that has been in your shoes before, then that is worth its weight in gold. Because there's this unexplained context and language and all of these things that someone who's not been in your shoes specifically can be empathetic or can be sympathetic to, but can't be empathetic to. And so I think the advice, the process, all of that stuff really does help when you've got somebody who's actually done what you've done before. I also found that it's much more helpful if they're just a little bit ahead of you. Because if they're miles ahead, then they forgot how much it hurts right now. It's like they're done. It's in the rearview mirror. They put a little lipstick on it and off they go. And so I think that's really important. And then I know for me, depending on what I'm trying to solve for, sometimes I want a group session. Like I want to hear what my colleagues and my contemporaries are doing and struggling with and how they're solving it. Other times I need to move much more quickly and on things that might be sensitive and proprietary to the organization. And so that's when I'll lean into some private coaching. Or sometimes I'm like, all right, I need some advice from a financial perspective, or advice on this very specific thing. And so I think as you narrow in on what you're trying to accomplish, taking all of these things as well as what you're trying to learn and what good looks like at the end of it is going to help everybody make a good decision for themselves. Okay, one last question, and then we're going to wrap up this conversation. And
Can I add one thing real quick?
yes, you may.
You mentioned in the very beginning of that question, but we kind of skipped over it. I just want to point out there is a massive amount of value in a good mastermind group.
Mm-hmm.
When I first heard about masterminds, I'm like, that is so dumb. I eat my words because I'm in several, and oh my gosh, there is not a pin. I've wasted money on some bad coaches, but these masterminds, I'm telling you, I would pay triple what I pay for them, because there is just so much value in going to the mastermind. I'm in a business mastermind. It's just a group of guys. We're all entrepreneurs. I'm like, hey guys, I got this idea. And they will sit there and they will pick it apart and they will help me clarify it. And they will and it's 2 hours. At the end of it, you feel like you've been at the gym all day. Like it's rough sometimes, but it is great. The value of a good mastermind group, worth its weight in gold.
Yep, agree, which is why we're starting them in the next
excited.
quarter. Yep, exactly. So exciting. Okay, so you've decided you need a coach. You figured your lane out. It's like, this is where I'm going. This is how I'm going to get there. So how do you make the most out of that investment?
Actively 100% be committed and fully engaged. If you kind of go into it, excuse my language, half-assed, then your results are going to be half-assed, right? So I don't remember what movie it was, but he's like, man, I've been doing life at half-assed my whole life, and I've gotten here. Shoot, I'm about to go full ass, and you're going to be amazed at my results. And so it's like, everything I do when it comes to coaching, especially if I'm the one paying for the coach, it's like, man, I am fully engaged because this is my money. right? So I put my money where my mouth is, my mouth where my money is, vice versa, and just get fully engaged.
I'd add to that. I love that showing up and playing full out. I would add if you're working and if you're a professional and you're hiring an executive coach, a leadership coach, get your boss on board. You know, if this is going to benefit the company, then don't be afraid to use some of that administrative time at work. You need the time, but get the commitment of your leadership to support you if you can do that. Not everybody can. The other one is I'd say don't sign on the dotted line if you haven't looked in your calendar and carved out the time, not just for the session, but to do the work. So I do time blocks. You know, if I can't make a time block for it, I know I'm not squeezing anything out of the turnip. So make sure that you have carved out the time to do the work. I mean, we can say show up and play full out, but the reality is we have jobs, kids, families, and a whole bunch of other things. So don't feel forced to start the coaching agreement because the coach is ready for you. You need to be ready for your coach because they're going to drive you, right? Or lead you, be the guide from the side. So again, make sure you have the time blocks in your calendar. Allow for the 1 to 2 hours a week or half an hour, whenever you're going to do this. Allow for that quiet time for you to do the self-reflective work so you can really bring real stuff to the table for the coach to help you with and not the same stuff from the last meeting. So again, carve out the time, be ready, show up and play full out, just like Stephen said.
Okay.
I'm gonna add to Tiffany, and I'm gonna say, trust the process.
How many times do we say that, right, Christina?
Trust the process. And there's a lot to be said for that all-in mentality, because your coach will come with tools and tips and tricks and all those kinds of things. But when you fully show up, you bring out even more in your coach. I had a client who was so present for our engagement, not only each session, but communicating between sessions, that she pushed me because she was so there and she was so ready and she kept upping her game that it required me to do the same. And I was a better coach for it, not just for her, but a better coach in general for every client I had and will have. And so it's such a rich experience when you are all in and you're trusting the process and willing to be a little uncomfortable maybe and do some things you haven't done before. Because one of the reasons you got the coach is because what you were doing wasn't working maybe. So you got to try some new things. So just trust the process.
I love that. I don't know how many times clients go away very uncomfortable with a thing to do, and they come back and they're like, it worked. I'm like, imagine that. It's such a good feeling when you send them out there to do the brave thing, and it does work. Kelly, what words of wisdom do you have to share?
So also I'm adding on to Tiffany's, the time commitment and getting your tribe behind you, not just maybe professionally, but personally. Get your partner, your children, whoever, your friends, like your trusted tribe behind you. I'm doing this. Let them encourage you along the way. Let them kind of help push you as well. How did your how was your session this week? Like, get them engaged in the process, because those are the people that are seeing you every day. And there's a good accountability there that they can help with as well. Not just the professional part, but from a personal, perspective too.
Awesome. Absolutely. Because the time you block, if you do what Tiffany says, is going to take away from the time that they're used to having access to you, right? And so having that support is really, really important. And Tiffany, were you going to say something else, or did I misread some body language?
Yeah, I was just going to add to what everyone said, and that is, and maybe it was already said, be vulnerable. Show up and allow yourself to be vulnerable, to speak your truth. Trust your coach that you hired, that they're going to protect your secrets, and then they can really help you.
Mhm. Yes,
Ooh, on that, I have to say this because I have to speak to coaches too and say the same thing. Coaches, be vulnerable. Be willing to be vulnerable with your clients. Be willing to share your story. And the, you know, the things that you struggle with, because many times we don't overcome a struggle, we learn to manage it. We get better and better at managing it. So, you know, when you set that example, then it makes it easier for the next person to see their way forward too. So yes, we want our clients to feel like they can be vulnerable. Coaches should feel the same way.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
if you're not being vulnerable as a coach, I don't understand how coaches can expect their clients to be vulnerable with them. It's like a mutual bond almost between client and coach of that vulnerability. It's to me, it's almost a necessity. Like it is a necessity. Great point, Christina.
I love all of this. I've got one last piece of advice to get the most out of your coaching investment, whether you're a company or whether you're an individual. And I think it may seem obvious, but be surprised how many people don't show up being coachable. We all have our own biases, our own blind spots, the things that have worked for us before, our assumptions. And so when you've got that situation where your coach is saying, you know, look at it in a different way or consider a different outcome, and you need to be willing to be coachable. And I know even sometimes when I get a coach and I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that. It's like, thanks for playing. I know I'm paying you, but I'm not doing that. You can't make me. And so, but that is a big part of the process. That's where the growth happens. And so make sure you're constantly checking in because you may think you're coachable, but then if you find yourself bristling, if you find yourself stepping back, if you find yourself procrastinating on the things that you know are going to help move you forward, then you need to do that check-in on coachability, right? And make sure that, because that's really how you're going to get the growth. So, all right. This has been a fantastic conversation. Hopefully everyone who is listening and watching is getting a ton of great information. Remember, you do not win alone and no one expects you to, even though that seems to be the myth. And hopefully you've learned a lot about how to be more introspective on when, how to really mire through the options to figure out what kind of coach you need, and then how to play all in and do everything that you need to do to get the most out of those engagements. It probably doesn't need to be said, but I'm going to say it anyway. All of us are here ready to serve should you need us. And so feel free to reach out, get a complimentary conversation going with any of the coaches that you've seen today, and we'll be happy to help you along your journey. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. All right.